Artist and activist Ai Weiwei is known the world over for his provocative works of art. His sculptures, photographs, documentaries and public works are instantly recognisable. In fact, his Bird's Nest Stadium, the centrepiece for the 2008 Beijing Games, became a visual representation of modern China. But China's most famous artist has come under fire from Chinese authorities for criticising the government. In 2011, he was detained for 3 months by Chinese authorities on charges of tax evasion. In 2015, he left the country, but he continues to criticise the regime. He joins me now from Portugal. Ai Weiwei, it's a pleasure to have you on the program. You were once described as the most important artist in the world. What does that mean to you, and what are people looking for in your art?
I think it gave me a lot of responsibility, and I don't not only just manage my personal activities, but rather to think about aesthetics, moral, and philosophical questions in relating to our time.
When you look at your place in the world, particularly at this time in China, with China's rising power, what are your responsibilities, do you think, as an artist, inside China and outside the country?
I think as an artist, I'm privileged to defend the freedom of expression. You know, this is I find my purpose. You know, to my life's purpose to struggle and to forcefully push those values ahead.
But of course, you've paid an enormous cost for your activism and your art. You've been detained, you've been arrested, you're outside of the country now, your mother, elderly mother, is still inside the country and you can't visit. Has this been worth the cost that you've paid?
I think, yes, if there's a so-called freedom, there's always a struggle. Based on struggle, freedom is just an illusion. I paid some price, but not that much compared to many people still spend their lifetime in jail, some even dead in jail. And compared to my father's generation, millions of intellectuals being punished, put in re-education camps. And what I have been paid is nothing.
And of course, your father as well, Ai Weiwei, was a famous poet. He'd criticised, he was a critic of Mao Zedong and also had suffered as a result of that. Do you think that you're following very much in his legacy?
I try to live up to the legacy of all intellectuals, be truthful and to have their voice to be heard by the authority. And yeah, I'm just one of the branches of the tree.
How much more difficult is it now, given the power of the Chinese Communist Party, as it becomes more powerful in the world? Have the voices of dissent increasingly been silenced?
I think China plays a dangerous game. Actually, it's a very historical, dangerous game because the way they may become so powerful because they can successfully erase those voices, and they destroyed all the intellectual characters and to maintain the stability. And that made China become a very highly efficient, but same time it lost its soul and its spirit, and there's no real courage in innovation and also in imagination.
Do you believe that the Chinese Communist Party, as it increasingly cracks down, we see a more authoritarian face to the party, that it is winning right now against the voices of dissent?
I think the Chinese government definitely is winning and have a huge victory in terms of purge all the people, whoever has different ideas. And they are not just winning at this time, they have been winning since 1949. And this is always the same game and the same rule.
So, what does that say about your activism, the activism of others, that in spite of that, the party can be, in your words, winning this battle?
I think the battle is a self battle. It's by doing so, I'm learning and I'm educating myself. What is the meaning of my life, and if that have any purpose or functioning. I'm not sure the battle for China or for even to make the change is possible, but certainly it's very meaningful for myself.
I have to say, it's a very depressing vision that you're outlining there. When you look at those who want freedom, who are campaigning for freedom, who want to bring about these change, and yet we're seeing that fail.
Well, I should say what have happened in China in past decades is not just China's effort, not as a result of China's effort. Of course, they made a tremendous effort, but as a result of Western countries' combined effort, they are trying to, to make a profit in China, and they try to to let this kind of authority or to exist, and that would benefit the West development. But until now, they really realize the challenge from China.
Do you think that the increasing criticism coming from the West now towards China is going to lead to more confrontation? How is the West handling this moment of China's rise?
I think at least a few signs showed, first, U.S. no longer, or the West no longer feel dominated the political landscape or economic control, and they will constantly meet the challenge from China, or not even more from other nations, maybe India or some other nations, and they have to accept more or change uh, their own principles. So that is to say, uh, because the West is not in a dominant position anymore, so there will be a lot of argument and negotiations. I don't know about a wartime or but certainly China is not afraid of to have a war.
So you believe that China is not afraid of war?
I don't think China is ever afraid of war. China has been since the 1940s in Yan'an. Then 1950s, 60s, they have a confrontation with U.S. and Russia, and Soviet Union, and they always prepared to say we are ready. We are not going to take this kind of how do you say the war, trying to scare people or something like that. So I think China is always prepared.
Ai Weiwei, can we turn now to some of your art? I want to look particularly at your role in the 2008 Olympics and the Bird's Nest Stadium, something that you are obviously very intricately involved in, and yet something that became very much a symbol of Chinese Communist Party power. When you reflect back on that, how do you feel about the way that your work there has been represented?
Before the Olympics, 1 year before that, I already realized that will be a source of propaganda for nationalism and glorify the Communist Party. And but still, the building, the architecture is very bold and designed for freedom. You can see this clearly even entrance and no decoration, and the structure is very strong and clear. And so probably the best architecture ever in terms in interpret the mass movement of any event. but still, this it doesn't really function well because it often be used as to glorify the Communist Party's achievement. That's very ironic.
It's interesting again that you use the word freedom when you describe what you wanted that Bird's Nest Stadium to represent. And it raises the question about just how, in the face of the control of the Chinese Communist Party, freedom is still alive in China. Do you believe that that desire for freedom is still alive in the people?
I think the spirit of the freedom never exists. It's not alive or not. It never exists. It may exist in a few individuals, but never really exist. And what Chinese Communist parties use nationalism, or or a strong party control to really eat away individualism or freedom. But nothing left.
Can I finish on another famous work of art of yours, and that is the sunflowers? How did you mean for that to be represented? What do you think about the various interpretations of it? And I wonder if you're not making a bigger statement here about China and a hope for a future of China that you'd like to see.
Well, all this over 100 million of sunflower seeds are come from an individual's hand. It's painted by individuals, mostly women. And, it's with very carefulness, with some kind of traditional way to make those high quality porcelains. And they all look the same, but they're all different.
And that says something too about China.
Yes, it reflects certain quality. China still has a strong culture being a individual, and but same times it looks almost like all the same.
Ai Weiwei, it's been a pleasure to have you on the program. Thank you again.
Thank you, 谢谢你。